the amount of thoughts we have throughout the day is insane. And if you were aware of how we talk to ourselves, like if we were actually paying attention to the things we say to ourselves, sometimes we would be shocked, because we would never say the things we say to ourselves to our friends or to our family members or to strangers, right? You would never, say to someone you love, you look disgusting, or that looks horrible on you, or you're stupid, or you're a failure, or you can't do anything, or you're gonna, mess everything up. You won't say that to anyone, but we so casually say it to ourselves every day, all day. And if you don't, congrats. Good for you. Keep going. But I'm sure that the majority of people do. And, the things that we say to ourselves are crazy. So I think that's where we should start, especially for adults, right? Let's say we didn't have the privilege to have, amazing teachers, or teachers that actually knew how to talk to us, and we were bullied, let's say, and we ended up in adulthood and we're kind of stuck, right? We don't have confidence. We don't have the confidence to go for the things that we want to go for. We can't talk to the person we like. The examples are endless, right? What do we do from there? First step, awareness. We just have to be aware of the way we talk to ourselves, right? And listen, because take a few minutes a day and listen. What do you say to yourself when you look in the mirror, right?
I agree completely. Like, there were moments, like you said, I was looking in the mirror and I was like, but I would never say that to my friends. And actually, I saw a very, very, very interesting video. I don't know the name of it, but it was so good. It was talking about self-love. And the guy said that we should change the dialogue we have with ourselves. Like, we would talk with one of our best friends. Like you said, like, we will never say you're disgusting. We'll say, like, you look amazing. So let's change the dialogue and let's say that in the mirror. And these are affirmations. So we should say, you know what? You look amazing. I love everything about you. I don't know, like, your hair looks amazing today. Even though you don't believe it at first, the fact that you say it, like, it's everything.
Will you believe it at first? Most probably not, right? You won't. And you're going to be like, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I saying this? All I can say to that is keep going. Don't stop. Do it 100 times, 1,000 times. You know how many times you need until you start to believe it. Fake it till you make it. It's a work in progress. We are, work in progress, but that's the beauty of it, to see yourself evolve and to see yourself get more in touch with yourself, more in love with yourself, become more complete, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to love the journey. So it's hard at first, obviously, because you're like, okay, what is this? But you need to love at least the idea of you becoming the person you want to become. And when you start falling in love with this idea, then you're going to do all of this kind of because you need to. So you're going to be there in front of the mirror and say, like, I'm awesome. I'm so cool. I love everything about me. And, like, even with your friends or colleagues or whatever, if you get like a message that before would really affect you, I think it's really important to change the dialogue and be like, you know what, this is their projections on me, not reality. So it's just being more aware of all this, like, I'm not saying like your friends, but even like a colleague at work, or even someone on the street, or someone at the supermarket. So I don't know, I used to get things very personally. I used to be very annoyed when people would, like, let's say, text me and I would feel attacked for some reason. And so I changed the narrative and I changed the way I looked at the situation. And now I feel much better because I know that whatever is going on doesn't have to do with me. It's not me.
This is something that I'm working on actively right now because I take things very personally. And thank God for my sister and my mom, because they make me aware of things, because I can get so annoyed so easily. They can say something that has nothing to do with me. And then I take it so personally, I can even start crying or getting super emotional about it. And I'm like, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, don't take things personally. Like, this has nothing to do with you, but I do. And I feel like that just causes so much unnecessary pain and drama. We should just take things more lightly, because usually people don't want to be mean and they don't want to hurt us. And I can tell you for sure that I'm not 100% there with my self-confidence, my self-love. Am I how I was 3 years ago? Not even close. I don't even recognize the person I was 3 years ago. But I'm closer to where I want to be. But I think it's also one fun exercise you could do is write down the kind of person that you want to be. the kind of person you really want to be, that confident person that, lights up a room, that, speaks their truth, that follows their passion. And, how does that person walk? How does that person talk? How does that person act in situations that are not easy or tense? Does she start, crying and causing a show? We're afraid to be alone a lot of the times. But if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, and if we're not full and complete on our own, then we're not going to be able to have fulfilling relationships with other people, because we're just going to go into relationships to get love, to get attention, to get praise. And that's ultimately going to cause frustration and tension between everyone. You go into relationships to give, and the other person should ideally go into the relationship to give. So there's two people that are giving, but they're whole and complete on their own. So I think that this is a very big lesson that I've had to learn in recent years, and especially now I'm realizing that more and more, because I feel like I have for years looked at relationships as a place to get, something that I wasn't giving myself.
Validation.
Validation. The thing is, when you're looking for that, you're only getting the scrapes.
Yeah.
Because, we're made of energy, right? We're going to get into this, but, people sense your energy, and they sense if you're not, in love with yourself, if you're not confident in yourself, and then they're going to treat you the way you treat yourself, and how you believe and what you believe about yourself, right? So work on yourself, work on your relationship with yourself, and then things align.
Yeah, I agree. And energy is so important. It's everything. And yes, we're gonna get into that. But I think this is something that I need to work on. It's also not getting validation and not really looking to get, like you said, and it's more to give. But what would you say for someone who goes into the relationship, friendship, whatever it is, and is there to give, but the other person gets? Do you have any advice for them?
Well, I think that it's all about communication, because you have to be honest with that person. If you see a pattern that keeps repeating itself, then you have to be honest with that person and say, listen, I feel like my part of the relationship is sort of one-sided, and it would be so meaningful to me if I could see some effort from your side. But don't go in with criticism. No one likes a critic. No one likes a critic.
I think communication is so important, and because without communication we cannot know what the other person is thinking, feeling. We don't know, and then we assume, and when we assume, we project what we assume on the other person, and then the downfall or the arguments are coming in because we just assume. And I don't know where I heard this thing from. I think it was a video I saw recently, but never assume. Never assume. Just go and ask or whatever, discuss, but never assume. And I think that's something that stuck with me until today, and actually will stick with me, I think, forever.
And us girls, I think, can be very petty and passive aggressive. And guys, the guys that are listening to this podcast, you should DM us about this. What do you think? I feel like us girls can be very passive aggressive, and then you guys don't get it because you like things to be told straight. Like, you like us to tell you, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is what I like, this is where I'm hurt, right? But we go and we shut the door really loud, or we make these, mean comments, and you just don't get it. You feel like, yeah, she's in a bad mood, but because we don't communicate about it, right? So it's all about communication, direct communication.
Yes, I agree. Sometimes it's hard, but I think this is also goes a bit hand in hand with self-love, because what I did, and this is a bit weird, okay, disclaimer, but what I did is talk to myself out loud, and some people would think this is weird. It's not necessarily, but sometimes when I would be alone, I would think, if there's something that really bothers me, I would just think about it and talk to myself like I'm my own friend. This is weird, but like this, I don't know. I think for me, at first it was weird, but I started doing this, and I actually saw that I became closer to myself. And this whole thing that people are saying, like, be your own best friend. Yeah. And sometimes it's weird, because how can you be your own best friend? And I think for stuff like this, like talking to yourself, or like trying to resolve an issue that is going on inside you alone, and not necessarily going to someone else, but just trying to see what's wrong. And talking to yourself is actually like very helpful, I think, or you don't even have to talk out loud if that's weird.
You don't have to talk out loud. You can talk in your mind, right? I mean,
but it's so important. And I think this also builds communication, because you're also communicating with yourself. And when something happens that bothers you, you can communicate with yourself and be like, okay, this bothers me. And then you can communicate it out loud to someone, like the person who like said whatever that bothered you or not. And then you again build communication.
So it's kind of like, also this idea that people are going to judge you. Realistically speaking, we're all so caught up in our own minds and in our own problems that we don't have that much time to judge other people. Like, yeah, you can make a comment, or you can think about, or you can look at someone and be like, yeah, whatever, that person. But how much are you actually going to think about it? Not much. Because you have your own issues, your own problems, your own things to sort. So, even when this was very funny, when I was younger at the beach, I was like, Mom, what if I don't look good in a bikini? And like, what are people going to say? Let's not even talk about that part. But anyways, and then she would be like, listen, number one, you look good in a bikini. And number two, people are way too bothered by how they look in a bikini to even think about how you look in a bikini. And that's the truth. Like, when you're at the beach, everyone's kind of thinking about their own selves. They're like, how do I look? How do I look? So that's not only at the beach, but anywhere you go. When you're having a presentation, everyone's worried about how they're going to have their presentation. Or, when you're delivering a presentation, people are not even paying attention to you. They're thinking about what they're going to cook for lunch. So my mind is telling me, don't do that because you're going to embarrass yourself, or when it's trying to keep me safe, I'm like, shut up, go and do it anyway. It's not as bad as you think, and oftentimes we make these huge scenarios in our head that people are going to say this and people are going to say that and this is going to happen, and nothing that we imagine happens.